put people at risk under control so as to cut off the transmission chain at an early date. We must ensure the scientific and targeted prevention control measures are implemented in accordance with laws and regulations, and the basic life and medical needs of the general public can be met. To combat the pandemic, we need a social fabric of defense. We appeal the general public to be the first person accountable for their health and have good health habits. Today we will focus on the theme that time waits for no one. We must consolidate and refine our control measures. We have with us DDG Liu Peixun from the Sports, Health and Arts Department of Ministry of Education, Mr. Lei Zhenglong, DDG from the Disease Control Bureau of the National Health Commission, Chief Immunization Planner, Mr. Wang Huaqing from CDC, and also from China CDC, the Chief Expert on Disinfection Studies, Mr. Zhang Liubo. They will jointly take your questions. Now the floor is open for questions. Please raise your hands if you have questions, and please identify yourself before you ask your questions. Thank you. With the Xinhua News Agency, as the moderator has mentioned, daily new confirmed local cases and symptomatic infection numbers have been on continuous decline. What has been the major changes of the pandemic situation in the past few days? I'd like to invite Mr. Lei Zhenglong to take the question. Thank you for your question. In the past several days, the case number has been on continuous stable decline over the past several days, with the daily new confirmed cases decreased to below 600 and below 500 in Shanghai for the past 4 days. The situation is stabilized and towards the better. However, in Shanghai, the situation is still relatively risky. We should be aware of the potential rebounding in some places of risk. In Beijing, newly reported infection number has been on substantial decline in the past 2 days. However, in the district of Fengtai and Haidian, we are still finding community transmission, community infected cases. There is a risk of community transmission in Jilin province. There have been some local cases reported in the border counties with unknown sources. And there is the potential of the transmission from the border areas to inland areas. There is the overspeeding, speeding over risk. And in Tianjin, there are multiple points of cluster cases. Community transmission risk remains. In Guang'an, Ningxi of Sichuan province, the pandemic is tailing off. For several days, there has been no infection reported from the non-controlled areas. In Henan, situation is stabilized, and in the city of Zhengzhou, there is no community transmission. There are still some small scale of cases in Xuchang of Henan province. At present, we are still faced with the ongoing pressure of preventing imported cases or domestic rebounding. National Health Commission will continue to guide localities to implement 4 early outbreak control capacity, improve the efficiency of response, consolidate the full-party accountability, and implement control measures in places, people, and organizations at risks, have scientific and targeted measures, and resolutely prevent oversimplification of one-size-fits-all approach, and we will make a holistic balance between the pandemic control and socio-economic development. Thank you. With CRN, we know that the vaccine targeted at Omicron is in the clinical trial phase. To have a better immunization efficacy, do you suggest that the general public can wait until the Omicron vaccine is adopted before they take the second dose or the booster dose? I'd like to invite Mr. Wang Huaqing to take the question. Thank you for your question. The variant Omicron has led to the fact that the COVID-19 is transmitting more quickly with a higher transmissibility, while the transmission is stealth and exacerbating the risk of infection. Against this backdrop, we are seeing that COVID-19 vaccine has proven effects over preventing severe cases or even death. Such efficacy has been clear and substantial. If you have got the full course vaccination, in particular booster dose, this efficacy has been proven more effective. The study on Omicron-targeted vaccine is aimed at adding one more tool to our toolkit of responding to the pandemic. Though the vaccine Omicron variant is already in the phase of clinical trial, we still need time to determine on the final conclusion of the research. The virus is still evolving with certain uncertainty. The rapid and rampant prevalence of Omicron in certain countries have added uncertainties. Against this backdrop, if the population do not get vaccination for the full course vaccination or booster vaccination as soon as quickly, in particular the elderly and the people with underlying chronic diseases, they are exposed to greater risk. Hypothetically, if the elderly population and the people with underlying diseases, once infected, are more prone to be developed into the severe cases, which may overwhelm the health resources. Therefore, it is the imperative to get a full course vaccination as quickly as possible. This has been proven effective to prevent the severe cases or death. Thank you.
好，谢谢，请继续提问。好，先来请左侧区第4排，第2位穿黑色衣服的男记者。
好，谢谢发言人。21世纪经济报道记者提
问。With the 21st century economic news,
群众按照规定减少流动，相应的对于快递的需求量就在增加。想请问，在快递在仓储、运输以及送达环节中应当如何做好消毒？那么群众个人在收取快递时应当如何做好消毒以及个人的保护？谢谢。
And how do you disinfect the packages during warehousing, logistics, and delivery? And how can the general public be better protected when they receive the delivered packages? Mr. Zhang Liubo is taking the question. In the pandemic-affected regions, when people stay put, they will have a natural increased need of the delivery. The State Post Bureau has dedicated operation guidelines. It stipulates that there must be a zoned and risk-rated prevention control measures, including the disinfection requirement for the packages in warehousing, logistics, and at the points of delivery. For the general public, the key for their protection is the way of disposal when they receive the delivered packages. We have several points of suggestions. First, the general public is advised to avoid contamination. Therefore, we recommend the general public to buy from regions of low risk. There is a technical difficulty of disinfecting the items inside the package. Therefore, the populace is recommended to purchase from the low-risk region. Second, better select a contactless way of receiving the package and have appropriate protection by wearing masks and gloves and keeping social distance of about 1 meter with others. Apart from all these measures, the outer package should refrain from being taken indoor. If you have to take the exterior package indoor, you should use a sanitizer tissue to wipe all 6 dimensions in the box or screen.
What is more important is that after you handle these goods, you need to do a better job in the sanitization, for example, by washing the hands with sanitizer. Also, thank you for the question.
谢谢南方都市报记者。想问一下教育部的刘司长，现在这部分城市还有疫情，那对于当前的校园疫情防控来说有什么样的重点？谢谢。
Metropolitan newspaper and for your concern of the campus COVID response. In order to have accurate and scientific response to the complexities of the COVID response and to safeguard the health and the campus safety, MOE has fully implemented the strategic deployment of the national COVID control, and we have held many times of video meetings so as to better implement all kinds of national policies in the educational system. We have issued the documents so as to give the guidance to the campus COVID response in the five following measures. First of all, that is the stringent implementation of the ongoing COVID responses. The four parties' responsibility should be implemented. We should enhance the entrance management, health monitoring, the management in the priority areas, including the dormitories, dining halls, as well as health monitoring. We should also enhance the health awareness and training for the staff and the students. And we should also conduct the NAT testing and strengthen the emergency responses. And secondly, we should make a good preparation of the emergency disposal of the sporadic sudden outbreaks. So the fall early principle should be adopted. Once there is an outbreak of the cases, the emergency mechanism should be triggered, and it should be made sure that those who should be tested, quarantined, hospitalized, and treated, and all those epidemiological and transfer quarantine should be conducted. Those people who should leave campus should be transferred to the quarantined areas, and etc. And thirdly, the service guarantee should be adopted within the campus, so the requirements of all the staff and the students should have the accessibility to the medical facilities, and the prices of the commodities and the dining within the campus should be maintained at a reasonable level, and an orderly learning and working environment should be created. And fourthly, we should enhance the human touch to the teachers and the students. The leaders within the campus and the mentors, the head teachers should go into the dormitories of the students to know better of the needs of the faculties and the teachers so as to resolve any difficulties that they are facing. And fifthly, to enhance the service capabilities of the schools, we should enhance the building, capacity building of the clinics of the middle and the primary schools and the higher learning institutions, especially for the higher learning institutions. They should set up the quarantine buffer area and the rooms so that such rooms should be set up, and they can have a linking mechanism with the designated hospitals nearby, and these should lay a very good foundation for the COVID response for the higher learning institutions.
中央广播电视总台央视记者提问：近期呢，一些地方对病例居住或者活动过的地方进行了周末消毒，但是有些地方在执行的过程中呢，加码到了一人阳性，整楼入户消杀。这件事呢，引发了社会广泛的争议。那么这样做是否是合理的？另外呢，周末消毒应该如何在尽量减轻对群众正常生活影响的情况下，做到更加的精准？谢谢。
好，我们请雷正龙先生来回答这个问题。
which has roused controversies. Do you think it is really very reasonable? Thank you for your question. Disinfection is the effective methods and means to conduct the people, object, and the environment, which has been proved very effective to cut off the transmission. And according to the
国家卫生健康委高度重视消毒工作。疫情发生以来，先后印发了多个消毒技术文件，科学指导、精准消毒，并做好公众的科普宣传。各行各业落实主体责任，针对本行业的特点，也都细化了规定，并且实施相应的监督。在疫情防控过程中，各地的组织专业的消毒度依法依规，按照新冠肺炎的防控方案以及根据流行病学调查的结果，对病例或者无症状感染者居住或者活动过的场所以及可能污染的环境场所进行终末消毒，为确保环境安全，应该说是发挥了重要的作用。但是我们也发现，在消毒集成过程中，个别地方存在着沟通不到位、操作不规范等问题。对此，我们也指出，也要求需要进一步加强对政策文件、技术操作流程、消毒方法的培训、宣贯，以及加强消毒过程中的监督等工作。各地在组织入户消毒过程中，要严格按照消毒技术规范和流程执行，同时要注重加强事前、事中、事后的沟通，让大家能够理解和支持消毒工作，共同做好规范消毒。
好，谢谢，请继续提问。好，先来请左侧区第二排靠过道第一位穿黑色衣服的男记者。
每日经济新闻宏观频道记者提问。有说法认为，奥密克戎感染后就会获得天然的免疫，这种说法有道理吗？对于感染奥密克戎后获得的免疫和接种疫苗后产生的免疫效果，这二者有什么区别？谢谢。
好，我们请王华信先生来回答这个问题。
好，谢谢这位记者提问。其实新冠病毒呢还在进化，尤其是最近流行的奥密克戎株。其实我们还在不断的认识过程中。那么感染病毒之后呢，从理论上呢会产生这个天然的免疫，但是我想呢，这不是目前我的一个选择。那么我们都知道，一方面呢，奥密克戎感染之后呢，还会导致重症死亡和就是在未来慢性病的情况会出现这样一个情况。如果你不接种疫苗，单靠自然感染的话，我想获得免疫这可能是很危险的选择，大家都看到这样的情况。第二个方面就是疫苗应用以来，其实我们看到预防重症和预防效果呢还是非常明确的。那么此外呢，就是奥密克戎株发生了一个很大的变异，因为它病毒也比较多。那么在这种情况下呢，它产生的自然感染，其实在未来的产生的免疫力，包括将来可能出现的病毒等等，到底有多大，其实我们现在无法确定。那么最近呢，有2项研究，这个都发表在世界这个免疫学期刊上，一个呢就是在自然医学期刊上发表的，还有一个是在这个新英格兰杂志上发表的。那么这2项研究的结论是什么呢？就是奥密克戎变异株自然感染之后，那么它产生的这个抗体水平低于呢我们打疫苗所产生的一个抗体水平。第二个呢，就是奥密克戎株，因为它变异是非常严重的，那么它产生的抗体的多样性，那么没有疫苗接种之后覆盖的这个抗体的多样性更广，所以呢，推断就是说，像奥密克戎这种病毒株，那么将来可能对其他病毒产生的这个保护效应，就是自然感染产生的保护效应会
好，谢谢，请继续提问。好，来请左侧区第2排第3位女记者。对。
总台央视中文国际频道记者。那我们知道，新冠肺炎疫情消毒技术指南规定，在病例或无症状感染者住院后，应该对其居所进行周末消毒。然而，近期有研究显示，新冠病毒通过物体表面接触传播是很小的概率事件，这也引发了一些争议。那周末消毒、入户消杀是否有必要？在何种场景下需要消毒？消毒是否有效呢？
好，我们请张刘波先生来回答这个问题。
谢谢这位记者朋友的提问。This has triggered some disputes. Is in-house or the domicile disinfection necessary? Why is it necessary? Yes, Mr. Zhang Liubo is taking the question. This is a great question. It is also a question needs our attention as the prevention control technologies have been evolving. Just now, PDG Mr. Lei Zhenglong has already shared with us the necessity of domicile disinfection. I'd like to approach your question from the technological perspective. When the case is quarantined, we should prevent the transmission of object to human or environment to human transmission. As to how should we disinfect the objects or the domicile, I think after the case or the asymptomatic cases have left a certain place, there have been the contamination on the objects they've touched and the environment they've lived in. On the surfaces of these objects, there might be the existence of live virus. Before we use these objects, we need to have the thorough disinfection. Sometimes it's difficult to judge the viability of the virus. It is time-bound. Besides, it also has something to do with the viral load, the ambient temperature, the humidity, the load and intensity of the contaminated objects, and the sunshine, the intensity of the sunshine on the surfaces of the objects. Therefore, we need to consider all these elements to come to a scientific conclusion. After the domicile or object thorough disinfection, we must ensure all the virus on the surfaces of the objects or in the domicile environment must be thoroughly disinfected. Domicile disinfection is the measure we've adopted to prevent the transmission among the family households where there has been some cases, but we should note that while we have the domicile disinfection, we must let the family members to stay out and only come in after the disinfection is completed. The team members of the disinfection team should be protected with personal protection equipment. For different textiles of the objects, different ways of disinfection should be adopted to prevent potential damage on the disinfected objects, including the valuable ones. And for the objects that have never been touched by the cases or asymptomatic cases, we can seal them in a certain container to the hazardous object. But this sealing method should be combined with other disinfection measures and other protection measures to ensure its effectiveness. Thank you. Next question, please. With the Phoenix TV, we've noticed such discussion online. Some people developed leukemia after vaccination of the COVID-19 vaccine, so they believe there might be some relevance between leukemia and vaccination. Does this opinion hold water? Mr. Wang Huaqing is taking the question. Is there a relevance between vaccination and the development of certain disease? To answer this question, We should first answer if the standardization of the vaccination is in place and whether vaccination process has been standardized. If there is the doubt that certain disease is related to vaccination, then such a suspicion must be reported to the vaccinating agency. There should be the establishment of an investigative diagnostic experts panel established to look into the matter. In the investigation process, relevant materials and files must be collected, including the vaccinee's status, his or her past case history, disease history. We need to collect enormous data from the past record. Third, if we want to answer the question related to any anomaly reaction, we need to set up an experts panel composed of multidisciplinary experts to conduct analysis on the data collected and come to a conclusion. And this should also be judged based on the finding results from the investigative team. We pay attention to several relevance. First is the time causal effect, that is, vaccination should be prior to the development of the disease. Second, we have to answer whether it is biologically reasonable. For example, in principle, attenuated vaccine should not be used and administered on people with immunodeficiency, because in terms of the biological feature, attenuated vaccine may lead to a higher risk of anomaly reaction among people with immunodeficiency. The second thing we should pay attention to is the intensity of the relevance. That means we need statistically meaningful difference with a substantial difference. So that is the intensity of the relevance. Besides, the fourth question we need to answer is to see if there is any pattern of the occurrence of a side effect or anomaly reaction. That is the dose-reaction relation, which means that the higher dose is, the stronger the response is. That indicates the existence of a dose-reaction relation. The fifth item we need to consider is the consistency in the relevance. This is a rather specialized knowledge, but we can put it simply in this way, that is, do all these people who get vaccinated have shown consistency in the development of a certain symptom or disease? Those with or without the vaccination may develop such a symptom, but we need to observe whether those with vaccination have shown a consistently stronger development of the symptom. And the specificity of the relevance is another thing we should pay attention to. We know certain side effect of the BCG vaccine for people with immunodeficiency. Those with the BCG vaccination may easily develop certain TB symptoms. That is the specificity of the relevance between the vaccine and an anomaly reaction, which means that the vaccine was the only reason leading to such incidents. All in all, we want to emphasize that if you have find anomaly reaction or you are feeling great discomfort after vaccination, which lasted for a relatively long period, or if you have the suspicion that these symptoms or disease have something to do with the vaccine, you are advised to go to hospitals to seek medical advice and timely inform the local health department of CDCs, because we need a whole panel of multidisciplinary experts to make investigation and come to a conclusion.
Because anomalies is still something that we need to gain more knowledge of, and we need to have a better understanding of it. So it depends on the judgment of the multidisciplinary professional panels to make a professional judgment.
好，现在请左侧区第3排考古到第1位记者。
谢谢主持人。澎湃新闻记者提问，我的问题是向张刘波主任提出的。那我们都知道，多数消毒剂是具有很强的刺激性，像刺激我们的眼睛和喉咙等方面。那么对于这方面，我们应该如何防范，避免消毒剂给人体带来的一些伤害？谢谢。
Endemol and sneezes and coughs and etc. How can we avoid the harm of the disinfectant to people's health? Thank you for your question. This is really a question which is really quite technical concerning about the disinfection. I really want to say a little bit more on how to avoid such health risks. Based on the disinfectant, first of all, we need to avoid the blindfold disinfection and excessive disinfection. Disinfection should be targeted only when we know that through disinfection can we cut off the transmission routes. There is a need for us to adopt the disinfection. While at the same time, if we have multiple measures to stem the transmission, we can choose the safest and the reliable and the economic and the convenient methods. Disinfection is only one of the alternatives.
第二个呢，应该要确保消毒有效的前提下，尽量选择这个安全性好的消毒剂和消毒方法。这里面我就举个例子，需要特别说明一下子。像我们那个这些消毒剂，它是不是安全有效？不只是消毒剂本身，还跟你的使用方法有比较大的关系。像我们比较常见的，像降盐的消毒。和一些其他的一些氧化类的消毒剂，像过氧乙酸呐、过氧化氢呐、含氯消毒剂啊这一类的。那么，季铵盐消毒剂在做茶湿消毒的时候、浸泡消毒的时候，通常呢安全性比较高，但是呢，也要把它去做喷雾消毒、去做熏蒸消毒、去做这些消毒的时候，去做气雾消毒、去做这些消毒的时候，吸入进去了。它的吸入的风险，吸入带来的安全风险就比较大，所以呢，我们需要针对不同的消毒对象和消毒方法来选择消毒剂，就非常的重要。那么具体的消毒剂的选择，应该可以参考2年前，刚好2年了。2年前，联华联合机制曾经发布过一个常用消毒剂使用指南，按照这个做，仍然还是可以的。一个除了这以外呢，第3个，我们消毒剂的使用浓度也不是越高越好，使用的量也不是越多越好。我们只要能够达到消毒效果就可以了，因为过大的剂量会伴随安全风险。那么使用的时候，我们应该是按照消毒剂的说明书规定的用量来使用。第4个，在使用的时候要做好个人防护，特别是我们可以说消毒的时候，我们无关的人员应该尽量的远离这些消毒操作的区域。我们消毒的工作人员可以根据需要来选择戴手套、戴口罩、戴护目镜、穿防护服，那个甚至是我们使用防化的这些过滤器等等这些装置，来保证我们工作人员的安全。好，谢谢。好，谢谢，请继续提问。好，来请右侧区第2排第2位穿深蓝色衣服的记者。
谢谢主持人，我是中国教育电视台记者。我们都知道当前疫情防控形势严峻复杂，所以想请问教育部在这种情况下，如何确保各地都能保障好、有效地做好我们的教育教学质量？另外呢，安全有序地做好线上线下的这个教学转换工作呢？谢谢。
好，我们请刘培俊先生来回答这个问题。
好，感谢教育电视台关心疫情防控期间线上教学
to the teaching arrangement of online and offline, as well as the guarantee of the teaching quality. During the COVID-19 response, we should pay equal importance to the physical and mental health, as well as the academic progress of the students based on different types of COVID-19 responses. All the schools are flexibly switching their teaching methods, both online and offline. There is a great guarantee to both the quality of teaching and learning, especially for ensuring the teaching quality of online. The MOE have set up such an online teaching quality mechanism. First of all, we need to roll out premium quality class resources. The MOE has accelerated its building of the National Smart Educational Public Service Platform and have rolled out a large number of premium courses. So we have built up such an online classroom accessible for all and can be learned at any time and anywhere. So we have fully utilized the cutting-edge technology to make sure that even though there is a suspension of the offline class, but teaching and learning are not suspended. Secondly, we need to have a highly efficient online interaction to ensure its quality. The school have optimized the online teaching methods and encouraging the students to conduct the online teaching, online discussion, online question answers to enhance the interactions between students and teachers to make sure the teaching quality is still highly guaranteed. And thirdly, we need to have very targeted teaching management to ensure the quality. MOE, along with other agencies, has issued the online management documents. So the main responsibility of the school has been identified to make sure that the online whole cycle quality management can be conducted. Currently, we are still facing a green COVID situation, so all the schools should take a very flexible attitude to have an orderly transition of the online teaching with the offline teaching to minimize the impact of the pandemic to the teaching quality. Recently, MOE has also issued the notice to enhance the transitions of the online and offline. First of all, such a decision-making mechanism should be optimized. All the educational administrative agencies should come out the guiding principles of the online and offline teaching transitions to make sure that for the offline teaching, the safety should be given priority, and for the online teaching, quality should be given as the priority. And secondly, we need to have a targeted category-based decision-making based on the COVID-19 situation, whether there is an outbreak or not an outbreak, and based on different schools, different grades, and different courses, such coordinated teaching methods which has taken into consideration of the features of offline and online, and making sure that there is an orderly transition of online and offline. And thirdly, we need to have a smooth information channel. Such information should be timely communicated to the teachers and the parents, so that the students would be well prepared for such a transition of offline and online, so as they are more adaptive to such a new environment with the feature of both online and offline learning.
谢谢主持人。人民日报记者提问：请问
我国这个新冠病毒疫苗接种情况，特别是60岁以上的老人人群，接种情况如何？谢谢。
好，我们请雷正龙先生来回答这个问题。
谢谢您的提问。根据国务院联
Thank you
防
for
联
your
防机制
question.
部，
Mr. Lee
我
Zhenglo
们
is
目
taking
前
the
自行指
question.
导各地
According to the
积极
deployment
稳
of
妥
the
推
State
进新
Council
冠疫苗的接种
Interagency
工作。
Task Force, we
截至
are
5
guiding
月26
localities
日，
to steadily
全
promote
国累计报
vaccination
告
as
接
of
种新冠疫苗
26th of May
33
across
亿
the country. We have accumulatively
7589.8万亿次，
inoculated
接种总人数达12亿
3,375,898,898,000 doses,
1,954,800,000， 已完成全程接
1,284,584,000
种
people
12亿
have received the vaccination.
5,573.2万人，覆盖人数和全场接种人数分别占全国
have
总人口
received
的
the complete full course vaccination.
91.47%，
91.47% and
完成加强免疫接种
89.07% of China's total population, respectively 774,679,000 people have got booster doses, including 36,822,000 people received the sequential vaccination.
完成全程接
For
种
the elderly
2 亿
above 60 years old,
1760.9万人，
229,553,000
覆盖人数和全程接种人数分别占
people
老年
have
人口
received the
的
vaccination.
86.94%、
217,609,000 people
完成
have
加强
received
免
the
疫接
full
种
course
1亿
vaccination.
6793.5万人。
86.94% and
新冠疫苗
among all
是
the
疫情防
elder
控的重要手段，
population in China,
在预
and
防重症、死亡等方面效果明显。为进一步做好
135,935,000
疫
people
苗接种工
above
作，
60
我们
years old
鼓励
have
各
got
地因地
booster
制宜
doses.
开拓思路，
Vaccination has been
进一
proven
步优
effective
化服务
measure
模
to
式，
prevent
加
the
大宣传力度，
pandemic.
提供更加
We
便捷
encourage
优质的接种
localities
服
to
务。
have
谢谢。
a tailor-made
好，谢谢。
approach to
请继续
expand
提问。
their ideas and
好，
improve
来，请
optimize
左
the
侧第一排
services and
考过到
enhance
第一位女记者。
publicity to provide more convenient quality vaccination services to all. Thank you.
谢谢
Next
主持人。
question,
封面
please.
新闻记者提问：
With the
研究
cover,
发现，高龄合并症免疫受损患者一旦突破感染，容易发展为重症。请问对于高危人群是否需要额
seniority
外的
of
保护来
age
加强免
with the
疫？谢谢。
complications or
好，
comorbidities
我们
and
请
with
王华庆先生来回
immunodeficiency.
答这个问题。
Once
好，谢谢这位
infected
记者
can
的提问。
easily
刚才
develop
你说
into
到的
severe
这些高风
cases
险
of
人群，
people
其
at
实
high
一直
risk.
是我们
Should
接种疫
they
苗最
need
优先的
extra
对象，
protection?
也
Mr.
是
Wang
最需要
Huating is
保护
taking
的
the
一个对
question.
象。
These
那么是
people
不
at
是
high
通过额
risk
外的保护来
are
加强
the
免疫？我想这
targets
属于这个
that should be
免疫程序的一部分。
protected,
因为免
especially
疫程序
as
我
to
们怎么
whether
样来
they
制定
should get
有它
extra
的考虑呢？几个方
protection.
面。
This
第一个呢，就是
is
说
in
在
the
制定这
holistic
个免疫
plan
程
of
序的时候，
vaccination
要考虑它的一
procedures.
个必
When
要
we
性。
decide on
第二个呢，
the
我们要考
steps
虑
for the
人群之
vaccination,
间，
we
包
should
括老人
consider
啊
the
和免疫缺
necessity
陷
of
的这个
vaccination.
免疫力
Second,
的
we
这个
should
差
consider
异性。第
the
三个呢，就是疫苗的安全性
immunity
和
difference
有
among
效
different
性。
segments of
那
the
么在考虑
population.
这个
Third, we have to
4个
consider
方面
the
的时候，或者
efficacy
更多因
of
素的时候呢，
vaccines.
其实我
When we
们
consider all
要有
these
证
above
据，
mentioned
不管是
aspects,
你必要性也
all
好，还
the
是安全性也
decisions
好，还
made
是有
should
效
be
性也
based
好，基
on
于这些证据
evidence,
基础
being
上
it
呢，我们
safety
才
or
能制定出来
efficacy
更好的一个
or
免疫
the
程序。
efficiency.
那么，
Only
其实
by
未来新冠
answering
疫
all
苗
these questions can we
它的这个
decide
免疫程序也
a
属于我们
good
免疫策略当中的核心
process
部分
or
了。那么
procedure
在
of
这
a
个免
vaccination.
疫策略的制定过程中呢，
While we
还是
are
要考虑它
drafting
疾病的
the
流行
while we
情况，
draft the
病毒的一些特
strategy
性，
of
还有
vaccination,
我
we
们疫
should
苗应用过
consider
程中
the
和未来疫
specific
苗使
feature
用的
of
时候
the
考虑它
virus
的
and
有
also
效
the
性和
feature
安全
of the
性的，
vaccination
来不断的
itself.
完善我们这个免疫程
And we have
程
to
序。
factor
那么
in the
对于这些人群，我
data
想将来我
generated
们
in the
会
process before we can
更完善的一个程
continuously
序来
polish
对这
our
些人群
vaccination
做出一个
strategy.
相应的一个
And
保护。
we
谢
are
谢。
continuously
好，
improving
谢
our
谢。
vaccination
我们最
strategy
后
to
再提两
provide
个
more
问题，
targeted
请继续提问。
support and protection
好，
for
先
people
请
at high
右
risk.
侧区第三
We
排
will
考
take
过到
two
第一位记者。
last questions for the day.
中国青年报记者提问：就现在在公共场所，比如说是公园或者
China
景区，也
use
在开展消
daily
毒工
in
作。
public places
请问这些室外
disinfection work
场
is
所的消毒工作
ongoing,
该如何正
including
确
the
开展？它
parks
跟
or
入户
scenic
的消毒有
spots.
何区别？
How can we properly
好，我们
conduct the
请张刘波
disinfection
先
in
生
the
来回答这个
outdoor
问题。
venues?
谢
What's
谢
the
这位记
difference
者的提
compared
问。
with the
那
indoor
么疫情期
disinfection?
间，
Mr.
我
Zhang
们
Liubo
这
is
个
taking the question.
商超
Thank you
啊、
for your
宾馆
question.
啊、农贸市场
as the pandemic is ongoing in supermarkets, hotels, agricultural produce markets, schools, and transportation hubs, stations, office buildings, construction sites, and other places need preventative disinfection with a focus on the frequently touched surfaces of objects such as doorknobs, the buttons for the lifts, and the counters. These are the places which are key of our disinfection efforts. And in the scenic spots that are outdoor, the focus of our disinfection are the kiosks of the small vendors and the public toilets. And in these places, we should focus on the disinfection of the environment and the surfaces of objects, and also some gym equipment for recreational or physical exercises services. The surfaces of these gym equipment should also be disinfected, but there is no need to disinfect the ground or for outdoor environment. There is no need to have the spray disinfection of the outdoor air. All these disinfection are preventative disinfection, and the indoor disinfection is only adopted when there is a case in the family household and when this positive infected case is transferred for treatment. Based on the risk analysis, we will then decide whether we will have a thorough and complete disinfection in the domicile of the case. Such disinfection is carried out by professionals because in the indoor environment of a family, the objects and environment have a higher complication. It's more complicated, and also there's the issue of protecting personal property. It is more sensitive, and we need scrupulous efforts in carrying out such infection by professionals, and it should be decided on the specific situation of each family household. Last question.
谢谢主持人。红星新闻记者提问：暑假将近，随着高校陆续放假，大量学生开始离校返家。那么，请问如何指引高校学生做好离校居家期间的疫情防控？
guide the students to have safe return to their homes and have a good pandemic control while they stay home. Mr. Liu Peijun will take the question. Thank you for your question. The summer vacation is around the corner. Again, it will be the season when the university campus students will go back to their homes. There is a high mobility of students going back home for cross-province or cross-region travel. Having a good pandemic control for the students during the summer vacation bears on the safety and health of the students, and it also the national pandemic control is also hinged upon a good control. And the Ministry of Education has been collaborating with other departments and guided localities to have a holistic arrangement of the safe return to their homes. We support the places of the schools and also the home localities of the students to coordinate with each other and have a solid, refined service guarantee measures to ensure the orderly return to their homes, safe travel, and healthy arrival at homes. As to how can the students from universities be guided to have a good control and prevention during the summer vacation, the Ministry of Education, as of May, has organized experts to carry out study and decided on the health guidelines for students and the conduct guideline for the teachers. And these are technical guidelines based on the specific transmissibility feature of the Omicron variant and in light of the specific needs of campus and the students. And these guidelines and the codes of conduct have provided good reference to the students first. We have issued a health guideline for students. These are customized and tailor-made guidelines with categorized and targeted guidelines for students going back to their hometowns, staying on campus, nurse put on medical observation and hospitalized students. We've also made popular science cartoons to guide students to abide by the pandemic response regulations in different settings. Second, we've put forward codes of conduct for students. Faculty of the schools should be accountable for the campus pandemic control. Teachers and faculty are the guardians of students' health, their vanguard and their champion. They must ensure healthy, effective and safe work to be carried out to ensure the health of the students and safety of the campus.
That we would be able to also guide the parents to have a very close coordination with the schools, and they can play an exemplary example for their children and in the COVID response. And recently, MOE have set up 3 different types of codes of conduct, and it has all priorities, but they share exactly the same common policy goals. We should all need to lead the students from all aspects so that they would be able to have a health study and health life and health growth during this exceptional time of the COVID response period. And thank you very much. We are being given an introduction of the vaccination, disinfections, as well as the campus COVID response measures. We would like to thank all these experts for answering the question from the journalists, and in the future we will hold more of these press conferences. If you have any further questions, you can just communicate to us on a timely manner. I would like to declare the conclusion of today's conference.
谢谢。
他说左右就按照咱们自己的左右来，也是按照那个。